Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live daily on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure, all Bookmap limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure, trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. The focus of my presentation and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel in Discord is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading, and the first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as a directional bias. And the second step of my process is execution. And I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups for entries and exits. And when I talk about setups, I will be talking about an underlying asset. And the setups can be taken with futures contracts, shares of stock, or options. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel in Discord as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. And hello, Karma FX. Glad you're here. Welcome. All right, my agenda for today. I want to cover news items, economic data, events and earnings for yesterday as well as the rest of the week. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from this morning, and then we'll take a look at the live market. And when we get to the live market, if anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at, please let me know and I will do that. All right, let's get started with economic data, news items. So first of all, of course, the big news is the Fitch downgrade of U.S. credit that came yesterday after the RTH close, and that has caused quite a move lower in the market today. And then the second news item was AMD's earnings. AMD reported earnings after the close yesterday. There was an initial positive response to that, and then that turned around pretty sharply today. So we'll take, when we get to setups, we'll take a look at AMD today. All right, let's get started with positional analysis. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. This is the ES futures in Bookmap. And before I take a closer look at this chart, I want to take a look at a larger time frame. I'm going to go to SPX. And hello, trade and sale. Says greetings from Switzerland. That sounds great. I wish I was there. So again, hello and welcome. All right, so the SPX gapped lower, down below the lower daily expected move, and traded below the lower weekly expected move, and now seems to be trying to recover. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Let me point out the levels on this chart. I know with the labels, the price action in SPX is difficult to see. The reason I'm showing this 30-day 1-hour chart is to show all of the key levels key expected move levels, as well as the key Spotgamma levels. So let me start with the lower and upper weekly expected move, shown with the dashed purple lines. Note SPX did trade below that and now seems to be trying to recover above that. That's from the options market. And then the next levels, the lower and upper daily expected move, again from the options market, and SPX gap down lower than the lower daily expected move, and probably won't recover that, but who knows. All right, let me point out some Spotgamma levels. These are proprietary Spotgamma levels provided to Spotgamma subscribers, and the first is the put wall at 4,500. That is the strike with the largest net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. And the next level up is the 4570 volatility trigger. That is Spotgamma's proprietary gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure, and that tends to enhance or increase volatility. On the other hand, above that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive. In a positive gamma environment, market makers have to trade against price to hedge their delta exposure, and that tends to subdue volatility. And for the first time in quite a while, SPX is trading below its volatility trigger in a negative gamma environment. And the next level up is the 4,600 level. That is the absolute gamma strike. That's the strike with the largest absolute gamma. And then finally, the 4,650 level, and that is the call wall, the strike with the largest net positive gamma, and that can be expected to act as resistance. All right, so those are the primary levels. Now let's take a look at a shorter time frame, still SPX. This is today in a 1 day, 1 minute chart. I have the same levels on this chart. So SPX is trading below the lower weekly expected move and the lower daily expected move. Also trading below the volatility trigger. And then finally, here's the put wall down below. And that would be the next target for SPX if it does continue lower. So those are the levels that are in play for today. All right, let's take a look at Bookmap now. Bookmap, I have my cloud notes here, and I'm showing the same SPX levels as well as SPY levels, and SPY levels have been in play today as usual. So first of all, here's the SPY 453 level, and that level did act as a point of consolidation this morning before price moved lower. And then the 452 level also acted somewhat as consolidation before price moved lower, and same for 451. And then finally 450 is the SPY put wall, and that is again the strike with the largest net negative gamma, and that did act as support almost to the tick for the S&P 500. Right, so those are the levels in play for today for the S&P 500, and note there were no shifts in levels overnight for SPX and SPY. So the volatility trigger, put walls, call walls, and absolute gamma strikes for SPX and SPY remain the same. And again, key levels really today have been the SPY levels, and primarily the SPY put wall at 450, acting as support. And we'll talk more about setups in a few minutes. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ. All right, here's NASDAQ for the day. Downtrend, down below the QQQ put wall. Let's take a look at that in a QQQ chart. So here's QQQ for the day, a 1-day, 1-minute chart. The volatility trigger is at 381 up here. So QQQ is trading well below the volatility trigger in a negative gamma environment. Note the put wall at 375. It acted as support earlier, and then price broke below the put wall, and now is attempting to trade above. So very weak day for the NASDAQ today. And let me just point out, there's a considerable void below 375. The next level down is this 370 level, next gamma level. And if price continued lower, that would be an obvious target for QQQ. All right, let's go back to Bookmap now. Look at the NASDAQ futures, NQ futures. And note the 380 level here, the QQQ 380 level. That is the absolute gamma strike for QQQ. Did act as resistance pre-market. And again, here's the 375. And then here is the NDX 15,420 volatility trigger. So NASDAQ is trading below the NDX and the QQQ volatility triggers. And we'll take a look at setups in a few minutes. So pretty wide range in NASDAQ today, about 300 points so far from what I'm showing on this chart. All right, there were just minor shifts in levels for the NASDAQ. For NDX, the volatility trigger shifted slightly higher, and for QQQ, the volatility trigger shifted slightly lower. Otherwise, the put walls, call walls, and absolute gamma strikes all remain the same. And again, we'll take a look at setups in a few minutes and take a look at what options traders were doing and see this in more detail. All right, let's take a look at gamma notional to see how market makers were positioned at the beginning of the day. So at the beginning of the day, this is market makers gamma notional, market makers position on the gamma curve for SPX, SPY, NDX, and QQQ. And really, it was fairly benign positioning at the beginning of the day. Still positive for SPX, although less positive than yesterday. And then for SPY, minus 321, market makers position on the gamma curve shifted to negative for SPY from slightly positive 14 yesterday to minus 322 today. And then for QQQ, gamma notional shifted more negative from minus 132 yesterday to minus 181 today. So overall, gamma notional shifted lower, either less positive or more negative. So less positive for SPX and more negative for SPY and QQQ. And this leads me to a thesis of looking for a little bit more or higher volatility than yesterday. Now keep in mind, this is based on options positioning during the day yesterday. So this was all before the Fitch downgrade came after the market closed and after the options markets closed. All right, to get a sense of how market makers may react with the additional news given their current gamma positioning, we can take a look at the Vanna model. I think it's very insightful today. So I'm going to take a look at the Vanna models for SPX, SPY, and QQQ. What this chart is showing is market makers delta notional and how that changes. That's on the vertical axis, and how that changes with price shown on the horizontal axis. So right now, SPX is trading right around 45.22. So that's right around here. So what this chart is showing, there are two curves on this chart. First of all, the gray curve is showing how market makers delta notional may change with changes in price only. And then the pink curve or purple curve is showing how market makers delta notional will change with changes in price and implied volatility. And that's the Vanna effect, the change in delta with a change in implied volatility. And what this is showing is if price decreases, market makers will have significantly more delta notional to hedge, as predicted by the price only, the gray curve. All right, so let's go back and take a look at where SPX is right now. That's 45.22, so that is firmly in the negative gamma portion of this curve. So this is showing is if price decreases, really from around 4,600, continues to decrease and implied volatility increases, market makers will need to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. So this is typical, again, of a negative gamma environment where traders are long puts, market makers are short puts, and when price decreases and implied volatility increases, they have to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. They want to remain delta neutral. So this works both ways. As price decreases, market makers have to continue to sell futures. So this gives us a good idea of the potential for a sharp move lower as price moves down to this portion of the Vanna curve here. Then again, it works the two ways. If price increases and implied volatility decreases, market makers can buy back their short futures. So this is why I say in a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price, and that tends to enhance or increase volatility when market makers are trading in the direction of price. All right, so that's the Vanna model for SPX. We'll take a look at SPY. Right now, SPY is trading just above the put wall. So that's at 450. And again, remember, well below the volatility trigger at 456 in the negative gamma portion of the curve. Same as SPX. And then finally for QQQ. QQQ is trading at just below 375, just below the put wall. Let me zoom in on this. This is so this is the 375 level. So again, QQQ trading firmly in the negative gamma portion of this curve here. Again, so leading market makers have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure, and that definitely enhanced the move lower today. or helped to contribute to the move lower today. As price got going, remember the 380 level acted as, so QQQ gap down, 380 acted as resistance, and price moved lower down to 375. So that's why I always look at this gamma notional and the Vanna model to get a sense of how market makers may react with changes in price and applied volatility, and what sort of trading range and volatility to expect for the day. So based on this, I was looking for a again, higher volatility, more of a trend day, and based on the gap down this morning, certainly looking for a bearish move. Okay, so that was my positional analysis, reviewing the levels, the gamma notional, and the Vanna model. I developed a thesis. All right, let's take a look at some setups now. So let's start with the S&P 500. I'm going to zoom in on this. So what this chart is showing is price for SPX with the white line, and I've got two lines here. I'm looking at the hero signal, hedging impact real-time options, for a combined signal for SPX, SPY, XSP, and ES futures, all combined into one signal. And I have two lines here. The first purple line, the one that I typically show, that's for all expirations. That's for today, tomorrow, Friday, next month, all expirations. And then the green or teal line is showing just 0 DTE. So that's what that's showing what the traders doing with options that expire at the end of the day today. And I'll talk about why I was looking at that in just a moment. So often the 0 DTE traders are in the market fading moves. So they have in the past few months been providing a kind of a mean reverting price action. So they will buy dips and sell rips, and that has tended to subdue volatility in the S&P 500. So what I was anticipating, I'm going to zoom in on the morning, and this was a question I had of with this move lower, how would the 0 DTE traders react? So the initial reaction was as I expected, and note the strong. Note how close the 0 DTE line is to the all expirations, indicating that 0 DTE options traders were driving a lot of the options order flow in the S&P 500 today. So this is what I expected. Right at the open, the 0 DTE options traders started taking positive delta positions. And that led to a short bounce higher. They took their foot off the gas, and price started to move lower again. So that was around 9:35. And we'll take a look at this in Bookmap and see exactly what happened in just a minute. Then that happened again right around 10:15, 10:17. Right here, they started taking positive delta positions again. SPX moved higher, ES moved higher. They took their foot off the gas, and price moved lower. So ultimately, these bounces higher were just setups for short entries. But we'll take a look at Bookmap too, and take a look at the signals in there. I think it's kind of interesting. All right, so let's go to Bookmap. Go back to, let's zoom in on this. Oh, first hour, hour and a half in the morning. So what I was noting here with these red squares were the similarities between these two moves higher. Remember, zero DTE options traders taking positive delta positions, helping to move price higher. So when options traders do that, market makers have to, in this case, buy back short futures. But that was short-lived. But let me point out the similarities in these moves higher. So first of all, as price is moving lower, so we know that options traders are buying or taking positive delta positions. This small move higher in the iceberg line there, the light blue line, shows traders, larger traders, buying on the way down with iceberg orders. All right, the next thing to notice here is the limit buy orders that come in there in the order book. And again, that was short-lived, right up to this liquidity at 45.70. Options traders take their foot off the gas, and price continues to move lower. All right, here's a similar, very similar setup. Again, remember this was around 10:15, 10:17. Options traders, zero DTE options traders, started taking positive delta positions. At the same time, large traders buying with iceberg orders. They used to hide their size. And note that traders chasing price higher with their limit orders, just like this setup. Very similar setups, but that also failed as options traders took their foot off the gas and price continued to move lower. So really interesting repeating patterns here. Again, ultimately just setting up entry points for short. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ. Let me zoom in here. We'll zoom in and then we'll see what options traders were doing. All right, so let's go back to Hero now. I'm going to turn off the zero DTE trades. We'll come back to look at the live market in a few minutes. So let's go take a look at NASDAQ now. So just like the S&P 500, this is a combined signal for NDX and QQQ, shown here. NASDAQ, combined signal, NDX, and QQQ. So if you trade NASDAQ, this is the signal you want to take a look at. Let's zoom in. So one thing that I wanted to take a look at here is this move right around 937, this move higher, lasted maybe less than 10 minutes. Options traders taking positive delta positions. And again, when they take their foot off the gas, this had the initial reaction of just slowing the move down is all it did. And then price continued lower. So let's go take a look at Bookmap. So there's the this little cluster where that move with options traders just slowed price down, and then price started to make lower highs and then broke decisively lower just after 10 a.m. So let's go back and take a look at Hero. So overall, though, the trend of Hero has been lower, and note when Hero, let me zoom in on this, maybe a little bit easier to see. Whoops. So Hero moving slightly lower, and then when traders start taking negative delta positions more aggressively, price starts to drop as well. So definitely short setups in SPX or then S&P 500 and NASDAQ. A little bit easier to read for me in NASDAQ today. All right, any questions, any comments, questions? If not, we'll start taking a look at some stocks. All right, let's take a look at some stocks. So what I want to do today is show an approach for finding stocks to trade. So we know that there was definitely negative or bearish news yesterday, market gap down, and a way to approach that is to rank either your watch list or the entire list of stocks that support Hero here. So I clicked on this Hero signal this morning so that it ranks the stocks in my watch list from weakest to strongest Hero signal. So what this Hero signal is showing, and let me show AMD for an example. I talked about this with Meta on for bullish setup earlier this week. So what this is showing, the dot is the current signal, and then this entire slider, it's probably impossible to see, but this entire slider is showing the range of the Hero signal for the last 30 days. So the signal for AMD is the weakest, the lowest that it has been in the last 30 days, and then the colored portion is showing the last 5 days. So AMD, the Hero signal, is the weakest that it has been in the last 30 days, and also weaker than it has been in the last 5 days. So let's just go through the signals with in this order. So first of all, here's QQQ. Very weak signal for NASDAQ. NASDAQ is definitely weak today. So we've already talked about that. This little bump up, move lower, and then the sharp move lower. and price follows. And then the next is AMD. And remember, AMD reported earnings after the close yesterday. Yesterday, there was an initial bullish reaction, but this approach of looking at stocks either in the watch list or the entire list of stocks, I think is a pretty solid approach for looking for setups for the day. All right, so here's AMD the entire day. Traders are selling calls and buying puts. Both these numbers are negative, and calls really driving price action. And AMD traders were buying calls yesterday. When traders buy calls, market makers sell calls, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. And now traders are selling calls, and market makers can sell their long stock hedges. So that is definitely what's going on today. They're also buying puts. That number is also negative. Both numbers negative. They're selling calls and buying puts. And let's look at some key levels here. 120 is the call wall key gamma strike. Price trading below that level. 112 is the hedge wall, and that slowed down price for a little bit. And then here's the 110 put wall that can be expected to act as support. All right, let's go take a look at Bookmap now. Let's go to AMD. And I'm going to zoom out and look at the move from yesterday. So I've got, I loaded 24 hours of data when I opened Bookmap this morning. So this is the cash open yesterday. Here's the close. AMD closed just below 118. Then here's the reaction after reporting earnings, and that must have been just from the earnings numbers. And then there was appears to be a bearish reaction. I think that came after the must have come after the press conference. And then here's the reaction today. Pre-market trading higher, just above the 120 call wall and key gamma strike, and then as soon as the cash open and options started trading, traders started taking negative delta positions that we just saw in Hero, and price moved down below the 120 level and continued pretty sharply lower, setting up a great short. So again, just ranking your watch list by hero signal gave a great clue to look for a short setup. So here's the 120 call wall. Price open below that level. Here's the 112 hedge wall. Did act as a little bit of a consolidation point. 112 hedge wall, 110 put wall also acted as a point for consolidation, and then price continued lower down to the liquidity at 108, and now is attempting to make a recovery. All right, let me check for questions. All right, Trade and Sale says, your analysis and preparations are very similar to pre-flight briefing and pre-flight checks, as well as in-flight checks. You must be a pilot. Very impressive. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thanks for your kind words. All right, and Yassine asked NASDAQ. I've already covered NASDAQ today. So if you just came in, if you missed the analysis from earlier, this session is recorded. Just go to the Bookmap YouTube channel and look in the archives. Later on this afternoon, you should see the recording where I covered NASDAQ earlier today. All right, so Super Newbie asked, does the hero signal change noticeably before earnings? AMD had earnings yesterday, and U has earnings tonight. Curious if hero can reveal any clues on sentiment differences between the two stocks. Their charts look identical today. I don't know if U is available in hero. So we'll take a look at hero for yesterday. And notice, as I recall yesterday, let me look at my notes, that traders were buying calls yesterday. It's what I have in my notes yesterday. So we can take a look at hero, and the hero signal should be rising for yesterday for AMD. So traders were buying calls, and it looks like they were, so that's why I said AMD, traders buying calls, market makers sell the calls, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. And as AMD is dropping today, traders are selling the calls, and market makers can sell their long stock hedges. So when I get through with the other stocks I want to take a look at, we'll take a look at U, and then we can take a look at the hero signal for AMD yesterday. All right, so great short setup in AMD. Now let's go back to hero, go to the next stock I want to take a look at. So we're going to work down the list here. And the reason I'm ignoring the S&P 500 ES futures, we've already looked at the combined signal for the S&P 500, which combines SPX, SPY, and ES. And by the way, the ES futures traders for S&P 500 got it right, much more so than the SPX traders and the SPY traders. All right, so the next stock in the list is Google. So of the stocks in this list, the next weakest signal, let me zoom in. And there was a divergent setup. What I'm looking at is the hero signal moves lower a few minutes, maybe just about 5 minutes before price, and price reverses at the 130 level, setting up a nice divergent short. Let's go take a look at Google and Bookmap. So here's the reversal at 130, the 130 level, as traders started taking negative delta positions and price moved lower, looks down a couple of points. Google's not a big mover, but the hero signal has worked pretty well for Google recently. So nice reversal at 130 as traders started taking negative delta positions. All right, let's take a look at NVIDIA. And Karma FX, thank you for your kind words. All right, looks like I need to move down the levels on NVIDIA. So I've just got to update my spreadsheet. Anyway, let's take a look at we'll focus on the move this morning. So let's go take a look at hero for NVIDIA. Actually, Microsoft was next on the list. We'll take a look at Microsoft. Sorry, I skipped over that. So Microsoft, traders taking negative delta positions. Let's go to Microsoft. Then we'll get back to NVIDIA. All right, so another great short setup for Microsoft. Hero signal pointing the way. Pullbacks. And if price had started to move, continued to move lower, 325 would be the next target. So notice the high liquidity at the big round numbers, the zeros and the fives. That was the first price target, 330. Then 329, 328, 328. Let's go back and take a look at Hero. Microsoft. Traders were selling calls and buying puts, just like AMD. And 325, that area with high liquidity, is the put wall for Microsoft. All right, let's go back to NVIDIA now. I'm going to skip over IWM. I don't have that in Bookmap. Back to NVIDIA. 457.50 is the hedge wall, and that's around the point where price moved lower. Right here. 445, the put wall. Let's go to Bookmap, go back to NVIDIA. So 457.50. Right around here, the hedge wall. Price moved lower. 445, the put wall. Had very little impact. That's pretty typical of volatile stocks like this. Put walls and call walls don't necessarily act as support and resistance like they do for the S&P 500 in again in volatile stocks like NVIDIA. So it looks like the 435 level did finally act as support. You can see all of the aggressive buyers finally come in. Note the shift from pink dots, market sell orders, to market buy orders shown by the green dots. Let's see what options traders are doing now. So options traders started taking positive delta positions right around 12:15, and then price responded a few minutes later, about 15 minutes later. Started moving higher. So that's at the 435 level. Let's just take a look at something else. Get a sense of the option structure at that level. So let's go to So here's the 435 strike. Note there is more put gamma that's shown by the blue bar below the zero line than call gamma. And one interesting thing to note here is the orange and blue line. So the blue line is showing put notional gamma, and the orange line is showing call notional gamma. So below around 475, just above the key gamma strike, put notional gamma starts to dominate. And note also these lines start to level off. The call line really definitely starts to level off. Let's go back to our current level right here. Actually, both levels, they start to level off around this level. They're less steep. Steeper here indicates more volatility, and as these lines level off, this indicates that market makers are fully hedged. They may not have any additional hedging to do, and if you're looking for a low point and like a potential bottom in a stock, that's a good point to look for, is this point where these lines really start to level off, indicating again market makers are fully hedged and may not have any additional hedging to do, or may not have much additional hedging to do. And again, if you're looking for a longer term entry point, that would be something to consider. So that could be what is happening with NVIDIA, and why traders are coming in at that point. So we know that the levels, the volatility indicated by these sloping lines here, that's leveling off, indicating market makers are fully hedged. We know that traders started taking positive delta positions, and also aggressive buyers were coming in right around that 435 level. Let's go back to Bookmap. Really strong signal here with the order flow. Let's zoom in on that. You can see the final sell sweep that's shown by these bright red dots, small bright red dots, as aggressive buyers start to come in. This is showing absorption here, these blue numbers, and aggressive buyers, of course, coming in. It takes them a while, about 15 minutes, to turn price around as options traders are taking positive delta positions. All right, so that's NVIDIA, still moving higher. Let's take a quick look at Tesla. Tesla was kind of doing its own thing today. Finally started to move lower, but initially moved higher. And note all the green dots here, aggressive buyers coming in. Kind of a deep pullback almost to 255, and aggressive buyers come in again. And then finally, Tesla gives in to the move lower. Let's take a look at cumulative volume delta for Tesla. And I normally don't look at cumulative volume delta for stocks, but it often gives a pretty good signal for Tesla. And here you can see the shift in order flow, aggressive buyers, and then aggressive sellers start to come in. Price moves lower, and then CVD shifts higher. And you can see the change in order flow here. The aggressive buyers start to come in. Price moves down another point or so, makes a higher high, another higher high, and now it's continuing higher. Let's see what options traders were doing, and then we'll take a look at you. All right, so let's go take a look at Tesla. And note, if we scroll down the list, Tesla is toward the middle of this list. Not really a strong signal or a weak signal. Here in the watch list, it's shown being positive or strong. So note the for Tesla, for the net for the day, notional value is positive. And there's a strong correlation between hedging flow and price action with Tesla today. Price moves up as traders were taking positive delta positions. Price moves lower, setting up that higher low for another move up before cumulative volume delta and options traders finally shift lower until about the same time, 12:10, 12:15, that NVIDIA reversed higher. Tesla did the same thing. So a little bit different tone for Tesla today. Positive delta positions overall. So traders are buying calls. Orange number is positive. They are buying puts, but call buyers are more aggressive. All right, let's take a look and see if U is in here. I'm not sure, not even sure what that is. And sorry, super newbie, I don't see that. All right, so again, sorry. Let's go back to AMD. And what I can do here in AMD is take a look at yesterday, so we can compare yesterday to today. So I'm going to change the date to Tuesday. So we'll just look at Tuesday in isolation. So this is looking at yesterday for AMD. And traders were buying calls and selling puts yesterday. The rising orange line showing traders are buying calls, and then these they were selling puts as well, but the call buyers were definitely more aggressive. Both numbers are positive. So that's yesterday. Let's go back to today now. Let's go to this one first. So Hero provides up to 5 days of a look back. All right, so Karma FX asks about Palantir, Amazon, and AI. So I believe all those stocks are in here. So we'll start with Palantir. And I don't have Palantir and Bookmap or AI or BABA. All right, so here's Palantir. Strong correlation between options trades, hedging flow, and price action. Traders selling calls. They're also selling puts. Selling volatility today, but call sellers more aggressive. All right, there's Palantir. We'll take a look at AI next. C3 AI, same thing. Whoops. Traders are buying puts and selling calls. Let's go to BABA. Same thing. Traders selling calls and buying puts. Both are negative. Price moving lower. Attempts to recover around 12.15, just like most other stocks. And then finally, let's go to Amazon. Let's take a look at the total signal. Amazon trading below the 130 key gamma strike. Looks like that was resistance this morning. And the 128 hedge wall did act as support initially, and then price broke below that level. Took a little bit longer for Amazon to reverse higher. Note this large block trade here. That's what the vertical line indicates. We'll see what traders are doing. So traders were buying calls today after this large block trade right around 9:50. Some traders selling calls, and then right after that. So large institutional trade selling calls, and then other traders start to come in and buy calls. Notional value for calls is positive, and also now notional value for puts is positive as well, indicating net traders are selling puts. It's indicated by this large block order there, selling puts. All right, we'll go to Bookmap and then wrap it up. Could go to Amazon. So Amazon 130, I believe that was the key gamma strike. Let's just go back. Yeah, 130, the key gamma strike. Price opens that level and moves lower, and then starts to reverse higher as traders started taking positive delta positions right around 12:30, a little bit later than some of the other stocks we looked at. All right, so the S&P 500 still trading above the SPY 450 put wall, but not much higher. All right, so Trade and Sale ask, may we look at Hero as a kind of leading indicator, and if so, in stocks or indices or futures? So I look at Hero in two ways, as a leading indicator or as a confirmation. And generally I want to be on the side of market makers. So if traders are taking negative delta positions, market makers either have to sell stock or sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. I want to be on the same side as that. And then on the other hand, if traders are taking positive delta positions, market makers have to buy futures or buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. Now, regarding the question about leading indicator, that happens more often in indices. So I look for that setup often in especially the S&P 500, looking for a leading indicator. There are a lot of players, a lot of different influences on the S&P 500, and sometimes there can be a little bit of a lag effect. So I think that may be why the Hero indicator can act as a leading indicator for price. So one of my favorite setups is for, let's say, prices moving higher to a potential resistance level, and traders start taking negative delta positions as prices moving up to that resistance level. So I'm looking for a reversal lower at that resistance level, and I look in Bookmap for confirmation in order flow. But on the other hand, in stocks, hero is typically just a confirmation. All right, so I hope that helps. Karma FX, you're welcome. Again, thank you for your kind words. I'm a little bit over my time today. I hope I answered everyone's questions. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. And let's see if we have anything coming up tomorrow. Oh, Apple and, let's see, Apple and Amazon report after the close tomorrow. Jobless claims in the morning, services PMI, and then on Friday the employment report. So we will we'll prepare for the Apple and Amazon earnings tomorrow afternoon. So again, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye.